welcome to another episode of Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the fall-like confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast not only here on YouTube, but on Spotify, Substack, Patreon, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. Happy to be here with you guys on this beautiful October 18th, 2025. I have the NFL Week 6 recap episode coming for you live and direct today. So definitely want to make sure I got on that. Had a busy week. Got some things touched up on, but I definitely wanted to make sure I went over this. There was about, let's see here, 6 games that I went over last week that I definitely wanted to touch on. Like I said, this episode will be more of like a quick takes type of episode. It won't be too long, so we're going to dive into that. Before we get started, though, I definitely want to make sure we give a shout out to several friends of the show. If you guys are familiar with the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, have been following the show, as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. However, StubHub and Viagogo, the number 1 and number 2 leading ticket resellers in the world for live events, shows, and concerts. They have a plethora of events currently available right now, as you'll see on the screen. I definitely implore you to check it out. Whether it's musical events, whether it's sporting events, whether it's just things, festivals, things that, to try to get out with your spouse or loved ones to just make time with this busy lifestyle and busy schedule that we live with now in these days. Definitely make sure you're doing something with your free time. So definitely check out StubHub and Viagogo, again, for live event shows and concerts. And as well for my gamers out there, for my avid PlayStation gamers, if you guys are looking to get, new accessories, new consoles, anything to immerse or enhance your PlayStation experience, don't hesitate to check the description box with the link within this video to PlayStation Direct. As always, make sure that you are getting everything that you need for your PlayStation. Like I said, cameras, controllers, whatever it may be. Sony PlayStation, more than a game. All right, guys, so getting into this episode, NFL Week 6 recap. This was upsets galore and more top teams fell. Definitely, if you guys saw the Eagles versus Giants recap from Week 6, obviously, I went over that and that fucking debacle. But needless to say, we're going over the rest of the NFL games that I caught over the Sunday. Basically, 49ers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 49ers, in shocking fashion, blew this game. They had this game in hand. It was a game that they literally, and I won't lie to you, with a lot of the injuries going on with Tampa Bay, I kind of thought, Tampa was possibly going to lose this game. San Fran played them tough throughout, but it just didn't work. They didn't hold up. The Buccaneers are able to win 30-19 and pull out the victory. Looking at it, though, in the specifics of the game, things that I noticed. Getting into it, the injuries are just really becoming a huge factor for the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously losing, Frank Warner, breaking his ankle. With the litany of injuries they have currently right now, it's very much an inability to sustain. When you start having all those type of injuries to a lot of key players, puts you in a bad situation where you're pretty fucked. I mean, you're literally going out there with like, hey, anybody that can come in and play well, a healthy, able, breathing body, that will do right now at this point. So 49ers just seem cursed with the injury woes. That being said, though, I want to make sure that I give a shout out to Baker Mayfield and the performance that he had up there. Baker Mayfield was electric in that game. Now, looking at his stat line, looking right here, you had 17 of 23, 256 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like I said, very efficient. Baker has been playing very top-notch football this year. I mean, he's definitely put himself in the MVP conversation. Don't know if he'll become the MVP. I mean, obviously, it's a lot of season still left to play out. But he's definitely legitimized some of the speculation and consideration for his early play early in the year. He has carried this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, and you just be bullshitting. You'd be bullshitting yourself if you didn't acknowledge that. Baker Mayfield has just been top-notch. And then, also too in rushing, something that I think he's definitely underrated aspect of his game that doesn't get noticed. He had 14 yards on 3 rushes, 4.7 per carry. So it just shows you how and where he's being utilized, and when he feels like there's a spot, he's going to take it. Looking at the 49ers side of it, though, Mac Jones had an outstanding game. Mac Jones has played just top-notch fucking football since he's been the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Kind of changed the conversation on what he may be and what he could possibly become. Obviously, we know it's the Shanahan system too, but Mac Jones, again, still playing well within it. 27 to 39, 347 yards, averaging damn near 9 yards per attempt, per throw. He got sacked 6 times, which just shows you how bad the offensive line play has been for San Francisco this year. But nonetheless, got to give Mac Jones and the 49ers a lot of credit, that offense, a lot of credit. the turnovers were ultimately the deciding factor in this game. You know, when you get sacked that many times, you have some strip sack fumbles, and you know, guys just aren't really completing plays the way they should be. You know, it just puts you in a bad situation, and it just cost the 49ers ultimately in the end. They did get some, you know, play from Christian McCaffrey. Not a huge yardage output total, but still affected the game nonetheless. He had 7 receptions of 57 yards, so he was definitely killing it in the receiving game. Rushing wise, I mean, he had 54 yards, but long he got the touchdown, so he was still able to affect the game in a multitude of ways. That's Christian McCaffrey right now, Mr. Everything for the San Francisco 49ers. Looking at it, though, you're not really mad at this performance. I mean, if you're the 49ers, you knew that with the injuries and the way the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been playing as of late, it was going to be a difficult game for you to win on the road. Turning the ball over definitely will cost you. Once you do that, you're pretty damn screwed. So if you're Kyle Shanahan, you're not saying woe is me. You could say woe is me with the injuries, but you're pretty happy with the way the team is playing, with the way they're responding, despite the injuries and all the shit that's been going on in San Francisco this year. If you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're happy. Got a good win against another top NFC opponent. Like I said, now their matchups coming up. For the 49ers, you got the Falcons. Buccaneers, you got the Lions. So it's key matchups. Both teams coming off some solid victories, especially with the Falcons beating the Bills in Atlanta. So very much a good game. Very much some great games coming up for those teams. And this will definitely tell for the 49ers, if they get sustained, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. Obviously, the schedule not being daunting, but the injuries are starting to pile up, and only time will tell how their season will end. Going here next, we're going to go to the Chiefs and the Lions. And I must admit, this game was a lot chippier than what I thought. Now, the Chiefs were able to pull out the victory 30-17. I thought this game was going to be physical, classic solid football game. It wound up getting away from the Lions early. A lot of bad penalties, a lot of bad football. The Lions kind of ran into a situation where the Chiefs are starting to find their footing. They're starting to get back to their old ways. You can see the way they were using the passing game in this game against Detroit. They definitely are starting to have that injection of confidence that they have been lacking for a long time. And again, when you get over 300 yards of offense rain on you, you kind of know, especially with the way Kansas City has played lately, you kind of got to know that you're going to possibly lose the game if you're Detroit. And then the defense for Kansas City has just been outstanding as well. I mean, only surrendering 17 points to Detroit. Now, granted, possibly would have been more had the Jared Goff touchdown for the illegal shift or the illegal motion. Had that not been, called, the game would probably been a lot tighter than what the score indicates. But when you have a situation where you don't get points after a drive like that, that's a fucking backbreaker. It doesn't matter who you are. So Detroit definitely put themselves in a bad situation. Then obviously you're getting Juju Smith-Schuster getting beat up at the end of the game. Despite the victory, it's just one of those things where for the Lions, you kind of understand their anger and their frustration. The game was there. The game was there to be had. Things didn't fall their way. Penalties, going 0-2 on fourth down, that damn sure, didn't help. So the Lions got to find their footing. I mean, they're still a good team. They're still one of the top teams in the NFC. They're going to have games like this, but when you lose games like this, it kind of reminds you and kind of shows you why you may not be able to trust this team late in the season, late in the year, in the playoffs when these games really count, do or die type scenarios. As far as, like I said, the Juju Smith-Schuster and Brian Branch situation, I'm glad Juju got punched on. Juju does a lot of sucker shit, a lot of sneaky back alley bullshit. So not really shocked. Definitely agree with the suspension that Branch got, but it was well worth it. Somebody finally took a chance and finally got after Juju's ass, so glad that it happened. And then you go a little bit further, it just basically boils down to now for the Chiefs, they have a division matchup against the Raiders. Who knows how that'll play? The Raiders have been playing better the last couple games, so we'll see how that plays out. I think that game is in Las Vegas as well. And for the Lions, make no mistake, they play, again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like I said, must-see matchup with some top NFC teams. So just all-around good football. Mired in some controversy, crazy things going on, but got to give the Chiefs, a lot of credit. They definitely are starting to come back into form. It's definitely starting to show that they are that team that won the AFC and has won the AFC West perennially for a long time now, for the past, 5 or so plus years. Going into the next game, we're going to talk about the Cowboys and Panthers. This one was, again, another one on the upset scale. The Cowboys were actually defeated by the Panthers 30-27. It was all pretty much by a late drive by the Panthers, putting together to win the game, securing a field goal to pretty much not play for overtime, which is something was kind of shocking. I thought, looking at it, when the Cowboys had locked that field goal up and made it 27-27, I kind of thought that Carolina was going to play for overtime. I was so glad that they had, heart and balls and actually just, went for it and just, did the thing that they needed to do to try to win. I want to make sure that there is no mistakes here. Before I dive into the Dallas part, this was probably the first time that the Carolina Panthers, maybe since a year ago against the Miami Dolphins, have had a signature win where they went up against a team that they weren't projected to beat, that they definitely thought a lot of people expected them to lose by, possibly double digits. They came in there and not only took them to the ropes, took them to the wire, but actually won the game this time. Not a close loss like they had against Kansas City. So they're starting to figure it out how to win. This is the best Bryce Young has looked in the Dave Canales, in the Dave Canales era. You got to give Carolina credit. They're definitely playing solid football. Who knows where this may lead for them late in the year? I mean, obviously Tampa and Atlanta are kind of duking it out right now, jockeying for position at AFC South. But I must repeat, do not sleep on Carolina. Carolina is starting to put it together. They win a couple more games like this, they're in a playoff picture. So got to give Dave Canales and Bryce Young credit. Also, I want to make sure, too, that you state this, because I think if I forget this, it's not going to be mentioned. More victories like this build character, toughen the skin, toughen the leather. It's going to put the Panthers in a situation where they're going to be late in the year playing against some good teams and actually possibly winning those games. So got to give Carolina a shitload of credit. As for the Cowboys, is this whole run defense thing, getting Kenny Clark and putting him there at nose tackle and getting rid of Micah, in the defense, is that still a legitimate argument? Is that still something Jerry is still pushing to the public? This defense is fucking atrocious. I have contended all year that the Cowboys have said, we will sacrifice defense to score a lot of points and beat you in games like this. Yet they keep losing them. I don't understand what the fucking logic was. This is crazy. I don't know what, Dak is playing great football so far to this point, but they're losing games, tied the game already, they've looked inconsistent in spite of the play that he's had, which just speaks profoundly to the fact that their defense is fucking atrocious. Trayvon Diggs looks like he's not even going to play in this game coming up this week. Just more of a rat bastard situation where the Dallas Cowboys, again, are going to have to go into each week 30-27, 28-24, 28-27, try to win games like that. It's not a recipe for success, and it just makes you realize as a Cowboys fan what depths and lengths this team will have to go through to win games this year and possibly even make the playoffs. Going next into a division matchup, we're going to talk about the Browns and Steelers. Now, this game was actually quite funny. Now, I must admit, when you're watching these games, especially those AFC North games, you sometimes kind of forget how bad some of these rivalries are, because they're not far away as far as location and proximity from where I'm at, but you just kind of forget the history sometimes with all the shit that goes on. The Bengals have been getting not the Bengals. The Browns have been getting their ass handed to them by the Steelers consistently and persistently now for years. The Browns have consistently struggled. I don't understand whether it's, obviously it's the front office, but whether it's front office just drafting guys that don't work out or just, philosophy, they haven't been able to get consistency of any kind, and especially against division opponents, which leads you into very precarious situations that puts you in a place where you're not beating those teams, you're knocked out, and you're pretty much fucked. So looking at it for what it is, you got to give the Browns a modicum of credit with the fact that they knew they had to go with a young guy, getting rid of Joe Flacco and putting the young guys out there, right? I think it's safe to say, especially with the Joe Flacco performance from Thursday night, which I'll touch on that in another episode, so I'll definitely make sure you guys stay plugged in for that. With the performance that Joe Flacco had the other night, on Thursday night, I think it's very safe to say the Browns and Mike Tomlin specifically was correct about the Browns. They're fucking retarded. Specifically, Andrew Berry. Dylan Gabriel was small, undersized, and diminutive, and it was very evident against the Pittsburgh Steelers. he did throw for 221 yards, but let's keep in mind he had 52 passing attempts. That is an insane amount of passing attempts for a rookie quarterback, let alone against a veteran defense like the Pittsburgh Steelers. The running game was just non-fucking existent for the Cleveland Browns. You know, Quinshon Judkins had 12 rushes for 36 yards. That is not scaring anyone. That is not putting fear in anyone. That is not doing anything to deter a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is why they won 23-9. You go a little bit further into some of the aspects of the game. I'm looking at it, and you know, for the Steelers, you give them credit because, like I said, they won that game. Albeit looking at how that performance was Thursday night against the Bengals, them losing that game, this win was even more crucial. So you got to give the Steelers credit. They're starting to, like I said, they were up until that loss that they had at Thursday night. They were starting to click on a lot of different cylinders, finding ways to win. And when you're playing a bad team like Cleveland, you can't lose games like this, division or not. You have to win these games. But I want to make sure I take a moment to stress with the Cleveland Browns. If this performance stays up, we're going to start hearing the Shedeur Sanders grumblings very soon. Very fucking soon. The offense outside of the game against Minnesota, and even then has had moments. You know, Dylan Gabriel, I think in that game he only had like 5, yards per attempt. There's got to be more. There's got to be more juice from this offense. So, not sure when, but another performance like this from Dylan Gabriel, I'm pretty damn sure we're going to start hearing the Shedeur needs to play, or Shedeur should start chants and posters. So, and Twitter feeds and everything going to fuck off. So Cleveland needs to figure it out. But I think their ultimate wish is that they're praying upon All-Stars that they get that Jaguars pick, because the Jaguars are looking good. And the Jaguars are starting to pile up some victories and starting to, create hell for the Colts in the AFC South. If you're Cleveland, first round pick nonetheless is still great, but a lower first round pick with as bad as your team looks, you need as much top-notch young talent as you can get. So remains to be seen how things will play out. But for Cleveland, I think soon we're going to start to hear those Shedeur Sanders needs to start chants. Going down south, we're going to go to the Monday night games. There was another doubleheader this past week in week 6. We're going to go with Falcons and Bills. What a crazy fucking game. First of all, Falcons upset the Bills 24-14 on Monday Night Football. This game early on was very deceptive. It looked like it was a game where it was going to be very close. Both teams were kind of, neck and neck. It was like a one-score game. But I got to give the Falcons credit. The Falcons ultimately did something that I haven't seen done against the Buffalo Bills outside of when they played the Kansas City Chiefs. The stifling defense that they played, the way that they attacked that offensive line, they exposed some things about the Bills, some major flaws and issues that it's not like they were unbeknownst to people, but I think because Josh Allen covers up as a deodorant, he covers up so many of the flaws for the Cleveland Browns, for the Buffalo Bills. Because he covers up so many of their flaws, you kind of don't really realize how bad they are. Their run defense is fucking atrocious. They have one of the worst run defenses in football. I do believe it's bottom 3. On top of the fact that wide receiver wise, you've kind of heard this now for years. Got to get Josh some more talent on the outside. Got to get Josh some more weapons on the outside. Well, after last year, that's not really a legitimate excuse, especially when those same guys helped you get to the AFC Championship game. Josh Allen and the Bills have played like shit the past few weeks. And you lost to New England. You lost this game on the road. It's not looking good. Something's clearly amiss. Something needs to get fixed. You didn't run the ball effectively. But the offensive line and the fact that Josh Allen is feeling the need to try to force the ball in crazy situations, that just speaks even more to the predicament that they're in. They wanted Josh Allen to have it all on him. These are games that remind us, is that really a great philosophy? I mean, yeah, he can carry the load. Yeah, this guy's a great young talent and an MVP and, all the things, all the bells and whistles and peaches and cream and sugar plums and lollipops, all that great shit. But then when we see games like this, it's like Falcons defense sacked him 4 times. He threw 2 horrendous interceptions. And to me, and it's just my opinion strictly here, obviously, it just shows to me that he seems like he has a lack of faith in some of his teammates. You kind of saw in the AFC Championship game a year ago. You kind of saw it again in that game, Monday night. He doesn't have anybody outside of James Cook possibly, but definitely I'm just speaking strictly offensively on the receiver aspect. We're still waiting for Keon Coleman to kind of pop. Khalil Shakir, solid. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, okay. There's no one there yet, though, that I've said that threatens you, that you got fear over. So this is something that the Bills are definitely going to have to address. You lost to a Falcons team who, middle of the pack defensively, not really great as far as rushing the passer, but they looked amazing against you. So definitely some things got to get fixed in Buffalo. But shout out to the Falcons for putting a good game together. The Falcons are starting to put it together. They're starting to look solid. We'll see how things play out as far in the AFC South, as I mentioned before, but got to give them credit. They are definitely looking like a good team. Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson offensively, those guys heard the whispers and starting to make sure Bijan Robinson is getting involved, starting to make sure that, Michael Penix is starting to feel more comfortable in the offense. Things like this, Atlanta, help you win football games. Get Bijan the fucking ball. You do that, you can win a lot more games. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Commanders and Bears. This game was even crazier. Last year, we all know it was the miraculous Hail Mary that helped propel the Commanders over the Bears and kind of sent the Bears in a tailspin that pretty much, if you look back at it in hindsight, was the start of the ending for the Chicago Bears in the 2024 season. But that was not the case this time around. The Bears were able to pull out this victory, 1-point victory, 25-24. And it was primarily on the backs of the fact that the defense started to put it together, and Caleb Williams and his offense is starting to get into a rhythm and starting to find a rhythm and flow. Looking at it, going here, you had Jaden Daniels coming back. So if you're the Commanders, you felt pretty great about your prospects. He had an amazing game. Jaden Daniels has just been fucking phenomenal. Again, 19-26, hella efficient, 211 yards, 3 touchdowns, costly interception. Bad fumble that they had in between there too, him and Robinson. Things just kind of got a little wacky there, but Jaden Daniels has not been the issue for the Commanders. The Commanders have lack of running game issues, offensive line issues, and now they're starting to deal with injuries. It's becoming a point where, again, Jaden Daniels is going to have to carry this team. Guys are going to be plugged in on him a little bit more this year, so we'll see how all that plays out. But the Commanders definitely did everything they were supposed to win, but late, the Bears just kicked up. You can see that the Commanders are definitely missing Terry McLaurin on the outside. We can't bullshit ourselves there. But Caleb Williams and this offense, even though they didn't look great early on, the improvisation later, some of the mixing up of the play calling with Ben Johnson, you definitely can see where this Bears team is going to be a threat down the stretch, and they can start to really shock some teams. And they may not be able to blow you out, but they're definitely going to be within games, and they're not going to be able to die. DeAndre Swift is getting the ball more. The offensive line, that money that the Bears front office put into that offensive line is all starting to come together. So got to give the Bears a shitload of credit there. Both teams obviously are going to be looking to improve. You got the Bears taking on the Saints. Now, obviously, Saints one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. So Bears are definitely going to try to hope that they don't get upset in that game. That's a trap game there. And the Commanders have a division matchup against the Dallas Cowboys awaiting them next week. So no Deebo Samuel in that game. So amazing to see how that all will play out. But be that as it may, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I love you for always plugging in. Take care. Stay tuned for the next episode. It'll be dropping shortly. And enjoy the rest of your weekend.